Lie back, dear friend. Let your body sink into the softness of your bed. Allow the cares of the day to drift away like leaves upon a gentle stream. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it out with a sigh. Feel the tension easing and the peace settling in. As the day draws to a close and the night wraps its comforting embrace around you, let us turn our hearts and minds to a story of faith, obedience, and God's unwavering love. A story whispered on the winds of time, echoing through the ages with a message of hope and redemption. Tonight, we journey back to the ancient world, to the time of the prophet Jonah, a man chosen by God for a special mission. A man who, like all of us, experienced moments of doubt, fear, and rebellion, yet found himself enveloped in the grace and forgiveness of a loving God. Now, Jonah was a good man at heart, devoted to his faith and his God, but he was also human, with human flaws and fears, just like you and me. When God called upon him to travel to the great city of Nineveh, a place of ancient stones and echoing voices, Jonah's heart felt a tremor of doubt. Nineveh was a place of different customs and unfamiliar faces, a world away from the life Jonah knew. The thought of venturing into this distant land, of leaving behind the comfort of his home and the familiarity of his people, filled him with a sense of apprehension. He wondered, "Why me, Lord? Why this daunting task?" Perhaps he felt inadequate, unprepared for the responsibility that lay before him. Or maybe, just maybe, a part of him longed for the comfort and security of the familiar, hesitant to step outside his comfort zone and embrace the unknown path that God was calling him to tread. But God, in his infinite wisdom, had chosen Jonah for this very mission. He saw the potential within him, the strength and compassion that lay beneath the surface of his fear. He knew that Jonah, despite his initial hesitation, possessed the heart and the voice to bring a message of hope and redemption to the people of Nineveh. So instead of following God's command, Jonah decided to run away. He slipped away from his home and made his way to the quiet harbor. There, among the cries of the seagulls and the creaking of ropes, he boarded a ship, a vessel of wood and sail that promised to carry him far, far away from Nineveh and the task God had set before him. He hoped to escape God's call, to lose himself in the vastness of the sea, in the anonymity of distant lands. But dear friends, as we all learn in our own journeys through life, we can never truly hide from God's presence. His love pursues us, even when we try to flee, like the rising sun that chases away the shadows of night. And so it was with Jonah. As the ship sailed further from his homeland, a powerful yet mesmerizing storm arose, a spectacle like none of the sailors had ever seen. The wind sang a deep, forceful melody, swaying the sails while the sea swelled into a hypnotic rhythm of rolling waves. The ship, a sturdy cradle in the vast and mighty ocean, rocked like a mother's embrace. The sailors, seasoned men of the sea, were filled with reverence. They sensed in their hearts that this was no ordinary storm, no mere lullaby of nature. This was something more, something transcendent. Jonah, cradled in the rocking of the ship's hull, he felt a soft whisper of realization settle over him like a warm blanket. The storm outside, with its rhythmic patter of raindrops and rumble of thunder, seemed to mirror the turmoil within his own heart. As he lay there, his eyelids growing heavy with each passing moment, he began to understand that this tempest was not just a force of nature, but a tender reminder of God's ever-present guidance. In the hushed quiet of his hiding place, Jonah's thoughts drifted like clouds across the twilight sky. He felt the weight of his choices and understood them as a nudge, guiding him back to the path of righteousness. With each deep breath, with the rocking of the ship, with the thunder and the lightning of the storm and the howling of the sea, he found himself moving closer and closer to a place of acceptance and peace. Slowly, with movements as fluid and as graceful as the peace within him, Jonah made his way to the deck. The sailors, their faces etched with concern, but softened by the dim, dreamy light, gathered around him. In a voice as soft and as comforting as a lullaby, Jonah shared his story. "My friends," he whispered, his words carried on the wind, "it is because of me that this storm has come. But fear not, for God's love is as vast and as deep as the ocean itself." As the sailors listened, their worried expressions melting into looks of wonder and tranquility, Jonah felt a profound sense of calm wash over him. "Let me return to the embrace of the sea," he said, his voice trailing off like the last notes of a bedtime song. "And you shall find the peace you seek." In that moment, surrounded by the gentle sway of the ship and the soft glow of starlight peeking through the clouds, Jonah knew that whatever came next, he would be safe in the loving arms of his Creator. With heavy hearts and trembling hands, the sailors did as Jonah had asked. They lifted him, their own fear momentarily forgotten in the face of his selfless courage, and cast him into the churning waves. He fell, a small figure against the vastness of the storm-ravaged sea, and disappeared beneath the swirling waters. As soon as Jonah was swallowed by the sea, a hush fell over the ocean. The wind, which moments before had been howling like a tormented beast, suddenly stilled. The waves, which had been rearing up like angry giants, gently subsided. The storm, in all its fury, vanished as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind a sea of glassy calm, bathed in the soft light of the returning sun. But Jonah's journey, dear friend, was far from over. As he sank deeper and deeper into the depths, into a world of shadowy blues and greens, a giant creature of the deep, a whale of immense power and size, glided through the waters. With the silent sweep of its massive tail, it opened its cavernous mouth and swallowed Jonah whole. Imagine, dear friend, if you can, the darkness that enveloped Jonah, the swirling, watery blackness, the muffled sounds of the ocean depth, the overwhelming sense of isolation. He was trapped, alone in the belly of a beast, seemingly cut off from the world, from the light, from hope itself. Fear, cold and clammy, must have gripped his heart. But even in this moment of utter despair, even in the belly of that whale, God was with Jonah. He was not alone. He was held, enveloped in the loving embrace of the one who had created him, the one who had called him, the one who would never forsake him. In the quiet darkness, surrounded by the rhythmic beating of the whale's great heart, Jonah found himself drawn into a deeper communion with God. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah drifted within the whale's belly. Imagine those long, slow hours enveloped in a world of hushed darkness and gentle motion. The rhythmic swaying of the whale as it glided through the depths, the muffled sounds of the ocean filtering through the vastness of its body, the faint luminescence of tiny creatures illuminating the darkness like a starry night sky. In this watery sanctuary, far removed from the world he knew, Jonah had nowhere to turn but inwards, nowhere to look but to God. He prayed with a fervor he had never known before, his words echoing in the stillness of his unusual prison. He poured out his heart to God, confessing his disobedience, his fear, his doubts. He repented, not just with words, but with a deep and abiding desire for change. He turned back to God with all his heart, surrendering his will to the divine purpose he had tried so hard to evade. In the belly of the whale, Jonah found himself immersed in an unexpected sea of warmth. The gentle pulse of the whale's massive heart echoed through the cavernous space, like waves lapping against a shore, a constant reminder of the omnipresence of God. As hours flowed into days, a glimmer of hope began to flicker within him, like a bioluminescent creature in the ocean's depths. The darkness that once seemed oppressive now felt like a comforting cocoon, a tranquil underwater cave nurturing his spirit and his renewed faith. Jonah felt a surge of energy coursing through him, like a powerful undercurrent, a divine spark igniting his soul. His fears and doubts began to dissolve, much like salt in the vast expanse of the sea. With each passing moment, he felt himself being cleansed and purified, as if bathed in the healing waters of God's love. The rhythmic swaying of the whale became a soothing lullaby, rocking Jonah gently in the strange aquatic cradle. In this fluid sanctuary, far removed from the world he knew, Jonah's spirit began to buoy, rising from the depths of despair towards the surface of hope. He found himself floating in a sea of divine grace by the unshakable presence of his Creator. With newfound clarity, as clear as the waters of a pristine spring, he called out to God. His voice resonated with purpose and determination, rippling through the chamber like a concentrated circle spreading across a still pond. He asked for guidance, strength, and courage to fulfill the task he now knew he must undertake. His words flowing like a river seeking its path to the ocean. In this moment of surrender, Jonah felt ready to dive deep into his divine calling. He was no longer a man adrift, but a vessel with purpose and love, ready to navigate the currents of God's will. As he floated in this living sanctuary, Jonah felt a tide of resolve rising within him, preparing him from the moment when he knew he would emerge reborn to face the world anew. And God, in his infinite mercy and boundless love, heard Jonah's prayers. He saw the genuine repentance in his heart, his renewed commitment to his faith. He saw the man he had chosen, now transformed, his spirit humbled, his heart softened. And so, with a gentle command, he spoke to the whale. The great creature, obedient to his Creator, rose majestically from the depths, a living island ascending through the emerald green waters, and with a mighty exhalation that sent a spray of sea foam dancing in the air, it opened its cavernous jaws, those prison gates of the deep that had concealed Jonah, and like a precious cargo emerging from a protective vessel, Jonah was gently deposited upon the shore. There, on the warm, welcoming sand, bathed in the golden light of the dawn, Jonah lay. He blinked his eyes, adjusting to the newfound brightness, his skin tingling with the touch of the sun and the caress of the gentle breeze. He was reborn, cleansed by the sea, his spirit renewed by his encounter with the divine. He had journeyed to the depths of despair, to the very heart of darkness, and emerged like a pearl from an oyster into the world of second chances. He had learned that even in our darkest moments, even when we feel lost and alone, adrift in a sea of fear and doubt, God's love is a beacon, a guiding light, leading us back to His grace. Just as the sun rises each morning, chasing away the shadows of the night, God's love pursues us, even when we try to flee, patiently waiting for us to turn back to Him. Jonah, lying on that shore, felt the weight of his disobedience lift from his shoulders. He felt the warmth of forgiveness wash over him like the gentle waves lapping at his feet. He knew that he had been given a second chance, a new beginning. He was ready at last to embrace the path God had laid out for him, to walk in faith and obedience, guided by the love that had carried him through the depths and brought him back to the light. With a heart full of newfound gratitude and a spirit strengthened by his ordeal, Jonah rose from the warm sand and turned his face towards Nineveh. He journeyed not with reluctance this time, but with a sense of purpose, his footsteps guided by a renewed faith. He entered the city, a place of ancient walls and winding streets, his voice echoing through the bustling marketplaces and busy courtyards. He preached to the people, his words carrying the weight of his own transformation. He spoke of his journey, of the storm, the wail, the darkness, and the light. He spoke of God's power and mercy, of the impending judgment and possibility of redemption. He called upon them to turn from their ways, to seek forgiveness, to embrace a life of love and compassion. He found a tapestry of drowsy souls yearning for change. The city was a dreamy mosaic of individuals, each carrying their own gentle burdens. The weary merchants, their eyes heavy from the long nights of counting coins, sought respite from the endless pursuit of wealth. Tired artisans, hands calloused from their craft, longed for a deeper purpose beyond their daily toil. Sleepy nobles, draped in silken robes, felt a whisper of emptiness despite their luxurious surroundings. Drowsy farmers, with sun-kissed skin and earth-stained fingers, yearned for a harvest of the soul.